Hello everyone and welcome to another What I Think review, and today we're going to be looking at History of the Daleks Sect 20. This is from Remembrance of the Daleks, and this is, according to the box, the Imperial Battle Squad. So in this we have, of course, another Imperial drone, which is always a nice thing to see. I know they're very popular, and this is also good for people that want to army build. But we have, of course, a release, or re-release I should say, of the Special Weapons Dalek. Again, box-wise, not a huge amount to say on the box because it's pretty simple, but obviously we've got a nice bit of info all on the back here about the actual episode itself, and then we've got this lovely bit of behind the scenes as well, which is also giving some information about the actual sort of props itself, which is also always an interesting read to see. It's one of the things that I do like about these boxes. But yeah, again, not a huge amount to say on that, so let's get into the box and have a look at what we have. So here we have the Daleks out of the box. Obviously we have our Special Weapons Dalek and our Imperial. A couple of little details I've noticed on the Imperial is that we have a silver eye now compared to the previous Ace release, which had the black eye. But also I've noticed on the midsection slats, this is the non-mesh version, which obviously on the Ace version we had a version that had the mesh on it, and I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe the reason for that at the time was because the non-mesh version had deteriorated beyond use, or had supposedly deteriorated beyond use. But the fact that we've got a non-mesh version here makes me think that either the original moulding was actually found to still be usable, or they have gone to the effort of creating a new moulding for this set, which is absolutely wonderful and brilliant to see. But very quickly on the thing of creating new mouldings, I have seen a couple of people say with these 80s Daleks especially, why can't they give us an updated skirt? And I'll touch on this very briefly because otherwise I will just go into waffling on territory. But basically, for those who haven't ever split a Dalek figure before, each side, the skirt is not a single section. The side of the Dalek comprises all of this section, this part of the body here, and up into the neck. And so to create a whole new skirt section, it would be a lot of work. And again, you've got to bear in mind that this is B&M these are coming through, and so B&M are not going to want to pay the money in order to get that because it's B&M. It would be good if we could potentially get that in future as a character exclusive, but again, and I could be I'm just speculating here, but given the fact that we've had these History of the Dalek sets through B&M, it's likely that obviously Character Options have a contract with B&M for these sets, and so they couldn't go and basically re-release this with updated mouldings as a History of the Dalek set, because those are to be released through B&M, not through their own website. Again, only my speculation, but logically that would seem to make sense. However, there is the potential in future for us to get these updated ones in future, especially now we know, for example, the Davros moulding exists and things like that. And certainly once the History of the Daleks line has sort of passed and now we've had these released, hopefully it means we could get some updated ones in future, but that's by the by. You know, I am simply speculating on that front, and that's enough said on that. Going on to the Special Weapons Dalek, obviously very nicely detailed, a little bit more weathering heavy than the previous ones, and it's also interesting to see as well that around this one of these here there is no weathering on it, which sort of is, I believe, the button that would normally be on the sound effects version as well. So it's interesting that that one button hasn't been weathered, even though it's not a button, it is just a solid piece, there's nothing there. After recording this review, I actually cracked open this release of the Special Weapons Dalek for reasons that you're going to see shortly, and it does appear that this release does in fact use the sound effects Dalek moulding release as opposed to the original version, as can be seen here in this photo, where you can see that the button, which I had previously mentioned didn't seem to have any weathering on it, has been glued into place. But obviously again, the gun moves up and down, and the body top does do a full rotation in both ways. Now, again, I don't have a huge amount to say more on these, which is kind of why I wanted to put in my bit as well about the updated moulding ideas and things like that, because it's something else more to talk about. But I have seen a few people do a custom of basically updating this Special Weapons Dalek into the version seen in The Magician's Apprentice, where it's got the orange lights and the dome top is actually turned around. So, given the fact that I've got 2 of these sets and I've already got several Special Weapons Daleks out, I thought I would do this as well, but with 1 extra special edition. Okay, so I'm not going to lie, it's been about 2 weeks since I recorded the last bit of this review, so I honestly cannot remember what the last thing I just said was. So I'm just going to say, here is my custom Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar Special Weapons Dalek. I know you said Imperial Weapons Dalek, because I have had to record this a couple of times now. But yes, so here is the updated custom. Really pleased with how it's come out. Obviously, some noticeable changes, which I'll take you through in a moment. But obviously, overall, come out together very well. Still retains its articulation, gun all still moves and everything. So in terms of changes in design, going from the top down, so as you can see, I've painted in the lights around the top. But one of the things that I've also done is I've done a 3D print and actually extended the light wells up by about a millimetre and a half, because when you actually look at the Dalek in The Witch is Familiar, the Special Weapons Dalek in The Witch is Familiar, it does have slightly taller light wells, because I believe it was a fan reproduction prop, which has slight minor inaccuracies and things like that. So I wanted to sort of emulate that, just again, to make it stand out just that little bit different from a standard Special Weapons Dalek. I've then also taken this top section and rotated it 90 degrees, so these side pieces are now at the front and the back. Overall weathering, again, it was interesting because the top had much more darker sort of black weathering, whereas the base was more sort of a rusted brown. And it's the base I'll move on to now, because as you can see, the skirt is entirely different, and that is because that is a 3D printed, more accurate 80s skirt, which again, I think has come out really well, really looks the part. But it's also something which I want to talk about because, as I previously mentioned, you know, about potentially having updated 80s sculpts, is because of the way that the classic Dalek models are made, it's basically one, almost like, you know, all of the skirt section and this midsection and the neck are sort of one whole mould. So it would be a little bit more expensive, probably not cost effective to do an entirely new mould for that. However, if character did ever want to go down that route and experiment into that, I will say that the character, the Special Weapons Dalek is actually perfect for that, because this skirt section is an entirely separate piece, and they could do an updated skirt section and then release the Special Weapons Dalek as a sort of standalone, because I know that some people say, like, well, if they could do it for that one, you know, they could have put it in this set. But then I also appreciate that then you would have had some people turning around and going, well, why has that one got an accurate skirt and this one hasn't? And then you've got to go through the whole thing of explaining, and it's just, it's a whole can of worms that I can understand why they wouldn't want to open it. But if you were to release an updated Special Weapons Dalek with perhaps sound effects and lights from The Witch is Familiar, maybe with, say, a Missy figure with a new head sculpt, or a Clara figure, or something like that, anything, and you did a double pack from The Witch is Familiar, and you did that as a character options exclusive with an updated skirt, that would be really, that would, I think, definitely be popular. Or even just a, you know, a Special Weapons Dalek standalone with an updated skirt, lights and sounds. It would be very, very popular, and I certainly think it's an interesting way that they could look in to doing that with the Special Weapons Dalek, because it would be a great sort of starting point to have a look at doing the updated skirt. I'm sure I'm saying things that's probably already been in the discussion many times, that character, but you know, I just feel like it's worth pointing out and worth saying it, just to voice the idea, you know, just to, you know, show if that idea is out there, that there's support for it, and if other people see it, and you know, it could be a great thing to see as an updated figure. But yeah, that's one nice little extra for this review. But that does bring to a close the end of another What I Think review. As always, I hope you'll enjoy this video. Like, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot, and be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. I've had a little bit of a reshuffle on there at the moment, so there is only the one tier, but for that smallest tier you can get your name at the end of my videos for the smallest donation, and all of your donations are greatly received. It really helps with the continued running of the channel. I salute you all, and I'll see you with another video very soon.